Welcome back to Jennifer Broussard Art. Today we're going to do the October duck in my Duck of the Month series. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to paint this guy. Super cute. I usually use Arches watercolor block 8x8 cold pressed. But today I'm going to try it out on this New York Central Art Supply 8x8 block cotton watercolor. 100% cotton, 140 pounds, so same everything. And I just want to show you the difference in the texture. I don't know if you can see that. Compared to Arches. This texture is a little, I don't know, it's less fine, I guess, than Arches. The valleys and mountains in the texture of the paper are wider and further apart than in Arches. Arches is pretty uniform and there's more tight texture, I guess. So let's see how it goes. And for this painting, I'm going to use Nickel Azo Yellow, Quinacridone Rose, and Phthalo Blue, regular Phthalo Blue green shade. This is red shade. I already have this on a plate from another painting. So I'm going to go ahead and use these today on this painting. And I'll just use this plate until I'm finished using these little blobs of paint. Should be quite a while. So to start with, I'm going to use my kneaded eraser. It's called a plastic kneaded eraser. And you just roll it into like a snake and you roll it over your drawing so that you can get the extra graphite off of your painting and it won't turn your paints muddy. And I keep it in a little jar so that it doesn't dry out. So I'm going to start with the duck, his head, and I'm just going to wet it. I'm using a number 8 silver black velvet. So I'm wetting over the eye, and I am not wetting the beak. So I'm putting clear water all over the head and the neck. And you can tell that's pretty even. I'm going to let it sink in for a minute while I mix up a gray. I'm going to make an orange with a little bit of yellow and a little bit of Quinacridone Rose. And I'm going to add a tiny bit of blue. I think this one is just phthalo blue, not red shade. And that turned it a little green. And that just means that my initial mix had more yellow than red in it. So then I just adjust the red. And that's turning it brown. I'm going to add some blue. Starting to turn gray. It's actually starting to turn green. Add a little red. More blue. Okay, more red. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. Now we need to just add a little more blue and it should start to gray up. There it is. See right there? Okay, I'm going to be wicking because my brush is holding a lot of water. Silver black velvets are pretty thirsty. I'm just going to wick the belly of the brush on a paper towel and I'm going to put this color in all around the duck's head. I'm going to go right over the eye and right up to the pencil mark. I'm going on the left side of the beak. And I'm going to take a little bit off right over the eye. So I rinsed out my brush, and you just get all the water out of it, and you can soak up paint and water. I want to add a little more back in right here, because right under the hat, there should be a little more shadow, and then there should be a little more shadow on the neck. So I'm adding a little extra pigment there. So the left side is in shadow. And now since this is wet, I'm not going to work on the pumpkin, the beak, or the hat. I'm going to go down to the feet. And I'm going to make a little dam so that this can't take over the whole plate. And you just makes part of the plate dry, and then the water can't go through. I'm going to keep my gray because I might want that. And I'm going to switch to a 4. This is a 6 over black velvet. Get a little bit of yellow. And actually I'm going to make an orange. That's a good orange. I'm going to paint right over the whole foot, all the toes and the webbing. I forgot to put the line in right here. Your outline has a line. I want to add a little more yellow, brighten it up. I'm going to add yellow to this one and then add orange. I have a damp brush now, and I'm just going to move the orange around. Okay, we'll let that dry. So far, so good on this paper. I'm going to finish the feet and use some more of this orange. Actually, I think I'm going to get a little more yellow and a little more red, pink, and make a brighter orange. That's a little bit leaning towards red. There, that's pretty. Okay, now I'm going to fill in the webbing part. I switched to a number 4 silver black velvet. This is a little toe back here, so I'm going to just do that. And then soften that. I'm adding a little detail right here, coming up the leg a little. Okay, let's do the same thing over here. I'm not exactly sure what this part is behind the leg, but it was on the reference photo when I first painted these, and I just forgot to leave it out. So it's just going to be part of the leg. This is called glazing, when you put a color over a dried color to intensify the value or to change the color a little bit. I'm going to put a little more detail right there. Come down these toes a little so they're not so separate. Okay, let's come up to the beak. I'm going to get some yellow. And go over the whole beak, even the little bump on the front. And I'm going to get a little orange. And I am leaving some of the yellow showing on that beak. I am going to lift off a little bit on the ridge right there. Okay, let's do the hat. This is going to be a lot of orange today. I'm going to paint the whole hat yellow. A little bit of orange. And same thing, I'm going to let some of that yellow continue to show through. These are dry enough. I can get a very skinny brush. I'm going to get this 50 silver white. And I'm going to get some of this orange and make the little creases on the duck's leg. Just go back and forth. I think I might get a little more red. They're pretty subtle. But if you don't put them there, they look too plain. Okay. I can go ahead and do the body of the pumpkin. And for that, I'm going to use a number 6. I'm going to get some yellow and some orange. I'm going to actually make a little more orange. That's really pretty. I'm going to use that. This is going over the entire pumpkin, even the face. We're going to be doing a lot of glazing today. So it's pretty easy to just fill this in. This is our underpainting. We're going to let it dry and we're going to go over it again with other layers and the different shades of orange, and then ultimately a dark for the face. Let's make an orangey orange. A little more yellow. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now this time I'm going to wet the pumpkin. Now I'm going to take this orange, and because I want this flat shape to look round, I'm going to add it around the edges of the shape. And I'm letting the water just soften this edge. Down here it's going to be pretty dark because a lot of the light is being blocked by everything. So we're going to add more there. And I want you to notice that every time you put your brush down and you pick it up on wet paper, it blooms. So remember that and use that to your advantage. If you don't want it to bloom, you would have to start from in here and come out to a dry spot. So when you see where it bloomed, now I'm going to go through the little lines right through the face. I'm going to get just some red, and I'm going to put it down here. And along the outside edge. This is starting to dry, but it's still damp enough that I can get away with doing this and not getting a bloom. And you know what? If I get a bloom, that's fine with me. I like blooms. And I'm just getting the back of that, and I want to go here. And then takes this down like this. A little more. My brush has very little water on it. It's just damp. And I'm picking up yogurt consistency paint in a light value. Let's add more to the edge, more red. And that is how we give it contour. There. Let's do the hat. Gonna make another orange. Get some more yellow, some more red. Get that pretty orange back. It needs a little more yellow. Okay, and now this, the top of it needs to match this. This was cut out of the top of the pumpkin. Let's do the beak. I'm going to add a little bit of this red on the edge. I went over. Easy to fix. And I'm going to go around that little bump. Damp brush, and I'm going to just soften the center. So this paper doesn't seem to be as forgiving of hard lines. That was on there for 5 seconds, and the hard line is showing right here and here. And I'm not sure it's going to let me lift it up. It's okay for this, but noted in my head for something different that I might paint on this paper. Let's do the eye. I'm going to get a number 4. And let's make our dark while we're waiting for everything to dry. So I'll get my 6 back out. I'm going to get some phthalo blue. This happens to be red shade. You can do the same thing with the other phthalo blue. Let's just do it with that. Get a big hunk of phthalo blue. Get a bunch of red. Mix those two together. This is like yogurt consistency. Get as much pigment out of your brush as you can. Rinse. And I'm going to add a little yellow. Barely any. Just to tone down that dark and not let it be bright purple. We want it to be gray or very dark. And the more times I rinse my brush and reintroduce it, the more watery it gets. So I'm going to get a little more blue. A little more blue. And it doesn't have to be pure black. You're not going to get lamp black. A little more red and a little more yellow. And so that's sort of a grayish purple. And that's what I want. Okay, number 4 brush. And I'm going to do the eye. I'm going to just go fill in that little oval and let it be. And this is not quite dry enough to introduce any new water. So let's dry everything off and finish up our duck. I want to add a little bit more pigment to the duck's head. I'm going to go ahead and wet it again. I'm going to try to avoid the eye. I don't want that to be disturbed. Still using my number 4. I'm going to use some of this dark that we mixed and add it right here. This is what happens when you don't let the water sink in. This is a water control issue. Easily fixed. You can just lift it up. And that's kind of exactly what I wanted. I'm going to bring that down to here. I love it when you mix a gray, and this is, look at, I don't know if you can see, but you can see the separation of the pigments. I really love that. I'm going to get a little more of this color and add it under the beak and down the chin. And with a soft brush, damp brush, I am going to spread that out. I'm going to add a little bit right there because I want this to have more shape. I think if I add a little bit right here, the eye will have like a socket, you know? And then the duck still looks like a white duck. All right, let's do the face. Just grab that dark and go right inside the lines. Whoa, I almost dropped it. Right on dry paper. Depending how much water you have in your mix, you might want to do it twice. For some reason I cannot get this edge there. What a cute little mouth. Cute little smile. So with silver black velvet brushes, I love them until about number 4. The number is the number 2 and the number 4 kind of drive me crazy because you have to, if you want a straight line, you've got to hold it really high up onto its tip. The 8 and the 6 don't seem to do that, and I love the 10 and 12. 10 and 16. I think I need to just do a little nostril right here. And then just a little line. And then a little line to on there. And I'm going to add a little bit of pink to this little bump. I want to have a little more orange over here. So I put it on and I'm softening, and that worked out okay. I didn't wait any time in between putting the paint on and softening it, maybe 2 seconds. I'm going to make a little bit of brown. I'm just going to get some of this orange and add a little blue to it. Add a little bit of red. A little more orange. I had that perfect burnt sienna, and then I should have used it on the stem. Now it's green. Add red. Now we have a little bit of a brown. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to add some of this onto the pumpkin. I'm going to draw a little bit of a line, and I'm going to soften it on each side. Do the same thing over here. It's very light, right on the dry paper, and I'm going to soften it. And do one more, just a little bit, not one more, I'm going to do them all, but very light value, and you don't have to soften it, but you still get a little bit of contour. And now inside the pumpkin, we're going to put that color. We want it to look like the head is coming out of the inside, so it's got to be dark in there. I'm going to add a little bit of this dark. Okay, I'm going to dry it and see if this is dark enough. Okay, off camera, I mixed up a little more dark, and I am going to go ahead and do one more coat. I'm going to use my number 6 this time. I'm thinking that it might cover it better with fewer strokes. It's much easier to do the line because I can just go right over it, swoop it, and it's on. There. And if you want to, you can add a little shadow under the feet. We didn't add the claws yet. We finish the shadows, then when that dries, we can do the claws. Just go right under the little, then with a damp brush, just soften it. This paper does not let you soften very easily. So just things you need to know about your paper. You know, they're not always negative, they're just different. I'm going to actually add a little orange to this. And I'm going to add a little bit of this brown up here. Let me add a little bit of the dark. And a little bit of dark onto the stem. So compared to the one that I did in 2021, I think it's a little more vibrant. This one I didn't mix. I just used my palette of colors, and they're both adorable. I think the feet here are a little better than the feet here, which is easily fixed. And then you could also, when you are working on yours, you could make it your own by changing the face. You could add another little duck maybe, or some bats, or a tree and a moon. Do what you want to it and make it yours. So happy Halloween, super early. But thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. I forgot to do the little claws. Using my 5-0 silver white, just adding little claws. There, now it's done.